Okay, we're back. So, Helio Sports World is up and running once again. Now, before we get into the UFC 275 breakdown video, I quickly want to get this out of the way. After a long break on not being able to put out videos, I feel this is the time that I finally make some changes to this channel and live up to its name. I mean, after all, this channel is called Helios Sports World, so from today onwards, I've decided that I will give my best in order to cover every sports related topic from all around the world that I usually watch. Obviously, UFC is going to be my first priority. I'm going to discuss other things related to MMA from different MMA organizations, starting from Bellator, PFL, BKFC, and even a little bit of boxing from here and there, even though I'm not that much of an expert when it comes to boxing. Secondly, I will also discuss football slash soccer. Obviously, that is always a trending topic all around the world. I mean, generally, we have the domestic seasons going on for half of the year. Then there are the big international fixtures as well. And third, this one is probably going to be a little controversial, as I also happen to be a huge pro wrestling fan. So I will give my best to discuss a little bit of WWE, AEW, and New Japan Pro Wrestling from time to time. But of course, with all that being said, do not worry. Like I said, my primary focus is obviously going to be on UFC. So yeah, with all that being said, let's get straight into the breakdown and prediction video for this weekend's UFC 275 main event between Jiri Prochazka and the UFC Light Heavyweight Champion Glover Teixeira. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Honestly, it feels like it's been ages since we've had a UFC pay-per-view, but well, here we are. UFC 275 goes down this weekend in Singapore, and we have a stacked card on our hands, headlined by the light heavyweight champion Glover Teixeira, who defends his title for the very first time against a very dangerous Jiri Prochazka. Teixeira is unbeaten in his last 6 fights in the UFC, and he definitely got a major boost of confidence from his last fight when he defeated Jan Blachowicz to win the title. On the other hand, you have Jiri Prochazka, who has just 3 losses in his professional record. He is still unbeaten in the UFC, and if you ask me, he's on the back of the biggest win of his career by beating Dominic Reyes. Now, one of the biggest talking points of this fight is obviously the massive age difference between Glover and Jiri. Glover is obviously in his 40s at the moment, whereas Prochazka is yet to enter his 30s. And given the history of this division, a young champion who is below the age of 30 is something that the UFC will be hoping to see in the light heavyweight division at the moment. Now, I do not mean any disrespect to Glover Teixeira by any means when I say that. I think he is obviously a phenomenal champion. He has proven to be a great asset to the light heavyweight division for all these years. And of course, with all his recent performances, Teixeira has proved all of us wrong time and time again, and he has just proved that age is just another number. But considering the history of this light heavyweight division, we previously had John Jones, who dominated this division for years. Then, of course, he got tired of it, vacated the title. Then, of course, we had Daniel Cormier hold the belt for a few years, and during that same time period as John Jones. So it could very well be said that for a solid few years, Jones and DC pretty much dominated this light heavyweight division, and the other fighters honestly struggled a lot to make a name for themselves while those two were active. Not because they were bad by any means, just that Jones and DC were probably a level above all the fighters they had to share the division with. But as of now, I feel that isn't the case anymore. The light heavyweight division seems to be open as ever with the likes of Jiri Prochazka, Alexander Rakic, Magomed Ankalaev, and Jamal Hill, who are all on the rise at the moment. And of course, first and foremost on that list is Jiri Prochazka, the Czech samurai. I mean, this guy looks like a ninja, he moves like a ninja, his antics are like a ninja, and I honestly love that about him. He clearly doesn't care what people think about him, and he just seems to be true to himself. Now, of course, Glover Teixeira, on the other hand, is someone who has been focusing more on his grappling lately and has used it in his last few fights compared to his striking. If you have followed Teixeira in the early stages of his career, he relied a lot more on his striking and his boxing. And if you go back to his fight against Alexander Gustafsson, you obviously saw that Teixeira paid the price for, trying to stand up with someone like Alexander Gustafsson, and of course he got knocked out for it. So yeah, I feel it is almost guaranteed that Teixeira is going to try and utilize his grappling skills in this fight, much like he did against Jan Blachowicz, Thiago Santos, and Anthony Smith. And in case you didn't know, Prochazka is someone who generally tends to give up his back once the fight goes to the ground and once his back hits the mat. So, of course, Teshua's approach in this fight is going to be the ground game and him trying to utilize his grappling. In case we see any sort of takedown defense from Prochazka, then obviously it goes without saying that he has studied Teshua's style and prepared himself in all aspects. But trying to defend takedowns from someone like Glover isn't going to be an easy task. Now, moving on to Jiri Prochazka's style of fighting, he is obviously an incredible striker, as we all know. His placement and timing is a thing of beauty to witness. Yuri has got a great timing with his punches, and the best part about them is almost all of his strikes are clean strikes, and he usually tends to hit the mark with them. So, of course, Yuri is a better striker when compared to Glover, and there is no way the champion can afford to stand and trade with Prochazka because there are high chances that his lights will go shut. Prochazka is sharp with his uppercuts, his jabs, and his insane elbows as well. And when you throw in his incredible speed and pace along with it, it really makes you think that Glover could find himself in deep, deep trouble this weekend. Because once Prochazka gets going and once he finds his rhythm while striking, I don't think there is a chance for Glover to make a comeback into this fight. But if I'm Glover, I know what my game plan is going to be right from the get go. I'm going to go for the shoot and try to take this fight to the ground and keep Yuri Prochazka down on the mat for as long as I can. There is absolutely no need for Glover to try anything fancy with his style of fighting, knowing that he's going to have a hard time adjusting with Prochazka's unorthodox style of fighting if he tries to do anything outside the box. And yeah, with that being said, my final take for this fight is that Yuri Prochazka cannot try to. Yuri Prochazka rather has to keep this fight on his feet. He shouldn't try and put himself into a grappling battle with an elite grappler like Glover Teixeira, whose game plan should be to take this fight to the ground and finish it right there. Obviously, these two men have a very different style of fighting. On one hand, you have a typical grappler who likes to drag his opponents down to the mat and keep them there and finish the fight there itself. On the other hand, you have the explosive striker who is going to knock you out cold with his ruthless striking and his boxing and everything that comes in between. So, for a final prediction for this fight, I will have to listen to my heart and go for a victory for Glover Teixeira. As much as I like Yuri Prochazka, I don't think Sunday is going to be his moment. I think there is going to be a huge difference in experience between the two fighters. I think Prochazka will have his crowning moment at some point later in his career, but for some reason, I do feel that we're going to get another solid performance from the champion, which will eventually see him retain the light heavyweight title once for the very first time. And yeah, by a solid performance, I mean Teixeira has been incredible in his last few fights. He absolutely washed Thiago Santos aside. He absolutely washed Anthony Smith aside, and I think he's going to do pretty much the same with Yuri Prochazka here. Anyway, that's it for this UFC 275 comeback video. I hope to see you all very soon with some football content and, of course, with some more UFC content as well as some professional wrestling, pro wrestling, as we all call it. With that being said, till next time, thanks for watching.